Hello, MotoAmerica fans. It's time for another episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you may even learn something from this unlikely pair and their special guest. The mic is yours, Paul and Sean.
Hey, MotoAmerica fans. I'm already laughing, actually, because our guest today is truly one of the good guys of the sport. And I was actually just telling him how much I miss him. And he actually says he misses us too, Sean. So that's pretty cool. But our guest today is going to be Ben Bostrom. He needs little introduction, except for you guys that are, 15 years old. But he was the AMA Superbike champion in 1998. Ironically, I don't know if ironically is the right word or coincidentally. You can get those confused easily, Sean. But ironically, he didn't win a race in 1998, but he won the championship. Then he goes to Europe in 2000 and he wins 6 races, 5 in a row, and doesn't win the championship.
Crazy.
So we're going to talk to him about that. But Ben Bostrom's our guest. He's also won a 2008 Supersport championship. He's won a Supermoto championship. He's won an XGames Gold Medal in Supermoto. He's ridden as a MotoGP wildcard. He's won the Race Across America cycling event with some teammates. The he's dabbled in everything and succeeded in basically everything that he's ever tried. There might be some stuff that he can tell us about that he's tried that he hasn't succeeded in, but I don't know what they are. So let's, Sean, let me talk to you for a minute first. How are you? I know it's tough times. You're stuck in your house like I am, but you're used to being stuck in your house.
Yeah, it seems like nothing changed except for we're not going to the track, but a guy that works from home and produces content, I'm still doing that all the time, except now my wife, who's a teacher, is home with me all the time, and she's on schooling her students online, so we're both like interrupting each other. Will you quiet down? I got to get this done. So yeah, we got to go back to racing one of these days.
How many pairs of pajamas do you have?
Well, I've got a pair of New York Giants pajamas that I only wear on game nights. But other than that, I'm not quite as Swedish as Bostrom is. I do wear some tighty whities, but I usually am not a pajama guy. So a lot of times I sleep in my clothes too. It just happens. I just give up on the day and end up like sleeping wherever I am. That happens quite a bit.
I end up just working for half the day in whatever I was wearing to bed. And so when I wake up naked, that's how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, so this is a huge preamble for Ben, and he deserves it for the type of guy he is. But I do want to say, and Paul, we talked a few weeks ago when we had Jensen Beeler on, we were talking about how the old 883 class and how people didn't think initially when those things were on in road racing that, they were like, what are we doing here? These Harleys that need their engines rebuilt, after every race or whatever. But yet it launched careers of Aaron Yates, and certainly Ben and Eric were known for racing those bikes. And, it got Ben and Eric, at least in road racing, kind of where they started. And it's ironic that it ended up, Ben went on to race V-twin superbikes with Ducati. He had that run in World Superbike like you're talking about. He was on a V-twin Ducati when he won as a wild card at Laguna Seca. And speaking of Laguna Seca and V-twins and where Ben Bostrom started, his career has kind of come circular back to V-twins again. Ben, welcome to the podcast, and tell us, if you would, this great announcement about you at Laguna Seca with a V-twin engine bike.
Well, I don't know if it's a great announcement, but hello, everybody. It's been a while, and feels good to hear these two guys' voices. Seriously, when I heard Paul jabbering in the background, I heard to talk to you the other day, Sean. But I was like, man, I miss that guy. The V-twin thing, kind of back to my roots. But that's supposed to be for fun. You go out there. There's always going to be some asshole who's going to build up too big of a bike and make the thing too competitive and lap us. But the rest of us got Purple Rain blaring, and it's for fun. How fast can you stop an 800-pound bike? Not very fast. So it's for fun. That's the thing. It's to go back out there and do it again. I was trying to convince my brother, and it took me 6 or 7 minutes because he's like, I don't know, Ben. I'm like, look, this is for fun. He's like, some asshole is going to build up a nice bike and want to go out there and do some 131s around Laguna on it. I'm like, it's not going to happen. But, you know, and if it does, who cares? Dude, we're not racing them.
So let me jump in on this for a minute. So what Ben is talking about is it's our King of the Baggers Invitational. It's going to be during our Laguna Seca weekend, July 10th through 12th. And Ben is actually going to ride one of the bikes. He's going to be on the Fueling Parts bike, which I did a story on earlier this week. It's a 124 cubic inch monster of a bagger bike. It's actually a 2019 Harley Davidson Road Glide. And yes, Ben is going to go through the corkscrew with his feet in front of him and probably not drag knee, but certainly is going to drag bags or floorboards or something. So how's that going to work for you, Ben? I know you're going to have some fun, but anything you do, you're probably competitive about it. So you're going to want to be at the front, aren't you?
Well, normally, yes, but I'll ride the bike to its ability and that's it. That's it. I still got like my job, professional dad. So I don't go out there and lay myself out. I've always had this theory. My dad taught us this when we were kids. It's never worth winning if it basically wrecks you for the rest of your life. You know, he's like, there's way more to do than race motorcycles. These are for fun. And we could do this till we're 80 as long as you know. And so that became a little bit of probably the way of life. Because when I was younger, like I was that little like, a little bit of like a John Kozinski type when I was a little kid. My brothers used to hate me because I was like, I had to win everything, you know? And then at some point you get hurt enough and you listen to your dad and you're like, yeah, you know, man, that was pretty fun. I didn't have to win that, but it's a hell of a lot nicer when you win, you know. It's different. Like, that's why the bagger thing's interesting. Like when you know, I get lucky enough and win a race, like I didn't like doing like big show off wheelies and burnouts. I'm like, dude, somebody had to, you know, build that motor. Let's not do a burnout. The only time you do burnouts when you're racing the 883, the thing's only allowed to make 65 horsepower and you're worried that you're going to go over the number. So you do a big ass burnout to mushroom those valves and knock the thing back a couple horsepower so you pass tech. That's the truth.
Ben, when's the last time you raced a motorcycle?
Well, I tried to pretend I still knew how to ride this winter before Anaheim 1 with Justin Barsha to go have fun with him. And, you know, it's always fun to race around with the boys. And I thought I still knew how, and I clipped his tire and I fell off and I haven't really been able to run since. And so, dude, I follow you guys. I don't follow you, Sean, but I see Carruthers runs, you know, he gets out there. There's what I call the best male dating site in the world. It's called Strava. And we go out and like dude, you can hook up with any guy you want around the world. Well, or lady, but like you know, you go in there and you log in, you kind of follow each other and you're like, ooh, nice job. You make little comments on their runs or like, you know, and I've been trying to run, but it just doesn't work. It's all because I thought I was still fast. You see the problem?
Yeah.
Yeah. 45 years old, things, you know, maybe if you did it day in and day out, but because you don't, you're just kind of, you're there, you're quick. I mean, you're still going to beat the 99%, but you're not that last 1% anymore. And that's called reality.
Ben, how did you get involved in this? Did somebody from Fueling contact you, or how did it all come about? Because we don't even know. I found out earlier this week when I was writing the story, they had in the notes, it said rider Ben Bostrom, and I was like, what? So what happened? How'd that go? I
don't know. To be honest, I don't know. I don't know. I don't remember if somebody got a hold of me, found my number through Instagram, or like, I don't even know how they called initially. And I was like, let me roll this around a little bit, but it could be fun. And then I started thinking about what Lavin always does. And he always says yes to everything. And that kind of makes his life. Otherwise, you know, we'd be some bored dads. So I go, yeah, I'll do it. Let me talk my brother into it. And that's basically how it went. And then, you know, every couple of weeks the boys give me a shout. Hey, what do you think? You know, are we still on? Got this virus going around and we got this and that, but we're still going to do it. Yeah, I'm in. Dude, I said, yes, let's go. It's fun.
Well, so that's another scoop too, that I didn't know about. So Paul is going to be doing a press release on the riders. It hasn't been announced yet. So you're the first rider we are aware of. It sounds like, so is Eric also being part of this?
Well, I don't know. I gotta do some more talking to him, you know? He was kind of cool. Now I'll put money he will do it. Let's say that. Yeah. I mean, come on, that's a fun trip. We go up there. You know what? This I'll never forget. Eric flies back. He's been locked down in Brazil for a while. Comes home. And I go, look, I'm going to do this like 8-hour endurance race with Chris Clark up at Miller Motorsports. You want to do it? He's like, oh, Ben, I haven't been on a bike for a few years, this, that, and the other. I'm like, who cares? Let's load up our mountain bikes. We'll drive to Utah. Chuck will put you on the bike and we'll do it and we'll run it as a 3-way. Right. And so he's like, okay, just kind of like shy about it. Dude, we had so much fun. We were probably exhausted by the time we got to the track from riding mountain bikes, raced, rode mountain bikes, drove home. And he's like, Ben, one of the greatest weekends of my life. I mean, you have to do it. Like, it's weird, but like, how they make that funny little memes and they're like, no great story ever started off with, well, I was eating this salad. You know what I mean? It's usually the hold my beer and watch this. So, and that's truly the case. You gotta go, like when I got the phone call from Mickey Diamond, Ben, we're going to go race across America. And I was thinking, shit, I'm turning 40. If I'm going to do that, I might as well do everything. So I had already done Cape Epic to race for 5-time world champion there, Christoph Sauser, and go work for him like a dog down in Africa. Right. But what an honor to get a race with Nino and all the boys. And I was like, turn 40. I go, okay, Cape Epic, race across America. Then Dave's like, let's go do Ironman. You got it. Ironman's on. So I was I got that like midlife crisis thing. I just started Hail Mary and everything. But I realized every time you're like, this is the most miserable son of a bitch I've ever been around. I don't want to be here. I want to be there. Everyone in the motorhome's fighting. Or you're doing Ironman. You're on that last like 15 miles of the run. You're like, I'm never doing this again. But then, when it's all said and done, a couple weeks go by and you heal up and you're like, man, greatest story of my life. So that's why I try to tell people, you got to get out and do it. Like if your friend says, let's go do something, it's worth doing, even though the struggle is real to do it. You spend a bunch of money and time and you get hurt. And dude, that's what really creates life. And the same thing for this bagger thing. I'm like, yeah, hope we don't crash and wad up their bike because the thing's beautiful. But at the same time, let's go out there and like ride to the ability of the bike and have fun. My leaves have all grown back on my tree. I'm pretty chatty these days, so let's go.
Okay, I got a quick Ben story. One thing I could always count on with Ben, well, not always, but there was several times when like he would be the fastest guy basically the entire weekend, including the warm up on Sunday morning, and then in the race, he'd get 4th, 5th, or 6th or something. And I'd go see him and he'd go, Paul, I changed the setup. And I'd be like, Ben, why would you change the setup when you were the fastest? And then you obviously tuned yourself right out of the race. He never really had an answer. And then he did Ironman. And so I chatted with him. I'm like, what happened? And he said, oh, I cramped and blah, blah, blah. And he said, I drank something that I hadn't tried drinking before, or ate something that I hadn't tried eating before. So basically, he's shown the ability to tune himself out of a race on a motorcycle. He's also tuned himself out of a race physically. Ben, what is your story? Why do you do that?
Well, no, you don't overthink it. It's called boredom. So what happened was I traveled with the late Andy Tresser one summer, and like he just tuned himself out of every race, right? But Andy was a great rider and a hell of a mechanic. And then, the thing is, I realized Andy would sit there and he just had to tinker with his bike nonstop. That would kind of get his nerves out. And then, he'd go race it. And whether he'd tune the thing in or out, like he raced. And so I'd sit there and we show up on Friday, you're riding the same bike, whatever, it's working good. Saturday, same bike, it's working good. By Sunday, you're like, the bike's kind of boring. Let's make a change. And then it happens like, because I love racing motorcycles, but at the same time, it's this little teeny fragment of your life, right? Like the rest of your life there's so much more to do that's actually more exciting, even though like a lot of us will say, oh, the best days are all behind us. That's not true. It depends on what days you put behind you. And if you're doing Ironman and you're like, oh my God, I've been training for 2 months, eating like this, drinking that, this, that. Like the last one I did for fun with Nick's brother, I fly up to, what did I do? No, the one I did with Mira was hilarious. I bought shoes at the airport and went and ran. Dude, biggest mistake of my life. So then I go up to do Ironman Whistler and I show up and Chris is like, dude, you're taking the shoes out of the box? Yep, never seen them, never worn them before. I'm going to try these out this time. Greatest shoes ever. So, like it just depends. But also I was running. I'm like, wow, these things feel different to run. And my feet were kind of stoked to run, which is odd. But like, I think boredom tunes you out of things because you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. You're like, I need a new drug. if heroin's good, crack's better. You think it is, right? But it's just the way it is. That's the problem with human nature. Some people are cool. They're way, way smarter than me. They want to just sit there and win titles in the same category. And I was always like, I don't know. I gotta go off and do this bicycle race. I'm going to try I'll try the X Games. I'll try this. I'll try that. Some super. It's like, you spread it out because it keeps you kind of fresh. They smart guys, like they hit it, you see these guys that are just brilliant on the bikes, whether it's the Marquez's. I mean, there's so many of them, the Valentinos, and they just, they got a category, and then Valentino, he'll drift off. He'll be like rally cars, flat track and stuff like that. And I totally appreciate it because I'm envious. I'm like, he's still doing it. He's like 65 years old. He's like Miguel Duhamel, and he's just killing it. And like, it's awesome. And the other riders will never see that. When I would travel, here's the same problem that Paul just brought up. We'd go to South Africa. No one would find me. They wouldn't even see me until I showed up in Australia on Friday for the practice, right? And the team would get like bummed out. Where have you been? I'm like, dude, I was seeing the world. You guys are actually paying me to go see the world. And then I'd stay in Australia, and I'd be all over Australia. I'd probably see more of Australia than Paul. And then you go up to Japan, and I just stay there in Japan, just hang out for 3 weeks until we had to go to England. And that's because you're really trying to like see and do everything, because you realize life is just, it goes by in a blink.
Mm-hmm. Okay, another Ben story. One of my favorite Ben quotes. I think it was Supermoto in Vegas. He just destroyed everybody, and kind of unexpectedly, I think, because these guys had, I think, been doing it a bit more. But anyways, he just destroys everybody. And I go up to him, I go, Ben, what's the deal with you? And he goes, Paul, I wake up in the morning, and he goes, I never really know which Ben Bostrom's going to show up. And today, the good one showed up. And I thought,
yeah, that's true.
Wow. Right. It is, right?
Paul, that's what Merlin always hated it, because Merlin was awesome, dude. I love that guy. And he would say, Ben, who showed up today? Right? And I was like, I don't know. But, when in 98, when I got that first Superbike ride, he was excited to work with me. And then he realized, wow, this kid's kind of like, he's either at the front or he's running 10th. Like, what the shit? And then Ducati realized it later too. But like, sometimes it's your diet. And I try to tell people, like, I didn't realize I had a dairy allergy. So if I had time to eat a bowl of cereal, it just hazed my eyes out. I'm like, wow, everything's coming at me at 300 mile an hour. So I try to tell these new racers or people listening to the show, like, look, I got allergies. It's allergy season. Yeah. Get rid of the food you're allergic to. Like the little things make a big difference on your life. Hey, you're welcome. Right. So like, and the same for the bike racing. So I would show up and I'd miss breakfast because I'd get up late and I'd barely make it to the track. And then we go out there and be fast. And the next time I'd have time to eat breakfast, and I'd make the mistake. So those things happen. And Merlin Eric Johnson was asking, write this article. My brother's like, man, and he sends this photo of Ben winning World Superbike as a wild card year 2. And he's like, I remember this day like it was yesterday. My brother wrote back like, yeah, but you didn't see him the year before getting lapped on the RC45. And I had to write back like, hey, I was in second place. They canceled the race. I got third. You know what I mean? Like, that was Ben showed up, and I'll never forget this Merlin thing, because he's like, wow, one of our RC45s is at the front. Even Honda was stoked. And I was like, I don't even know why we're up there. But Merlin goes, Master, you have arrived. And I always thought it was the funniest saying. I'm like, not really. I was just good today. I might suck next week. And then as the season went, I remember Mathers, them sitting me down. We're winning Loudon, as Bice loves Loudon. So that track, we crash out of the lead because I'm racing with Mladen. I crash out of the lead. I pick the bike up. We still finished. I don't know, we got 10th or something. And because that thing, as you guys know, the RC45 was indestructible tank. You could hardly break that bike. Ask McGill. McGill would, he'd break that bike. But, that bike, pick it up, finish, and then I got set down. Don't try to win anymore. You just finish. We need that title, right? Now, here's the funny part of the story. It's great being able to tell this and who gives a shit later. But at the end of the season, right, who comes up and gives me the big hug? The same guy that's firing me, right? So it's Mathers. Oh, Ben, I want to give this hug. It had been the only year I worked for Honda that we didn't win a title, because we didn't win a title in any category other than you on this rookie season on Superbike. And I was thinking, didn't you just fire me last week? The fuck you talking about? It's funny to see how people are. And I was like, it's just a bike race, to be honest. And that thing. And the next season, we were fired, dude. I didn't even have a job. We were so lucky Ducati had a seat open. our Ben would have been sitting on the bench, with the number 1 plate. It probably wouldn't have bothered me.
Okay, I got to ask you, how did the right Ben race wake up for 6 races in a row in World Superbike to win all those races in 2000
Oh, well, that's different. So, we went over there and I didn't know anything other than, this is a great bike. Team seems super cool, man. They're a great group of dudes. And the bike would always crash me. And I didn't realize they were building the thing at Troy Corser's bike. It had this big old trail number, 24.5 head angles. And I'm like, I don't know, this bike won't even turn, right? It wasn't until I got fired later in the year that I made friends with Gobert again. And then Ernie sent the B team all my specs, just build the bike like that. And then the A team never beat us for the rest of the year. So the next year they go, Ben, you can have your own team. What tires you want? I said, I will put Dunlops on those things, right? And then they were stoked because now we had Michelin and Dunlop. However, the two were very competitive. As long as you're riding good, you could win on either tire. And some tracks favored other tires. In that case, it's that old thing when you start winning, I didn't really change anything. I just go rock climbing all day. I'd just make it to the track. One time, Tardazzi didn't even let me ride the bike on Friday practice. He actually said, go back to bed. You're not allowed to ride. Show up tomorrow for qualifying. I was like, God, this guy's unbelievable. But when we showed up, we were quick again. So Tardazzi was right, because he put this thing there. It's quality, not quantity of laps, Ben. Go back to bed. So, when you get on a little bit of a roll.
Damn it, boys. I'm sorry. Ben was right in the middle of a story. Terry Vance calls me. It disconnects. We have to start over again, but not completely over. We have all the good stuff behind us. But anyways, I couldn't even tell you where you're at, Ben. You were talking about 2000, kicking everybody's ass, blah, blah, blah. So let's just pick it up.
It's easy. We could stitch it back together like Jack Skellington's girlfriend, Sally. So, Bice, what's your question? Ask another one. Because I'll tell you, as a rider, you can just ramble on. There's always something wrong with your bike. Even if you won, it's never good enough. That's what we do. We cry, we bitch and complain. The mechanic, the bike's amazing. We're still it's just not good enough. It's the way it is. That's why we're called riders.
Well, I can't get over the karmic stuff that's going on when, in fact, we started and you said you got a text or something from Miguel Duhamel and Paul just got a call from Terry Vance. So what, are they all sensing that Ben Bostrom is in the air here and, they got to get in on it? I mean, I don't understand.
They must be. I didn't. He had no idea. I don't know what his deal is. He calls me every once in a while. Just today happened to be one of them.
Yeah, that's weird, huh? It's wild because that guy kind of, dude, I love that guy. He just. Oh,
I do too.
He's just kind of loyal, straight shooter. He's different than a lot of the people in the industry. They're not all like that, I'll tell you. But Terry was great. And even when I wanted to ride again in America in 2000, because I was pretty disappointed that the bike let us down a couple races, or Terry and I we'd had number 1 plate on his bike, So the guy goes, Hook, look, let's not even badger about price. Here's how much I'm going to pay. You cool? I'm like, I'm cool. Okay, good. Let's go racing. You know what I mean? We didn't even bother talking to other brands. We didn't give them a chance. And then of course the Italians are like, actually that's our contract. And they swept me off. And I was like, because I really wanted to ride for Terry again. Plus I just wanted to go steamroll people, But Terry, I was sitting there drinking with him and Jeff Fox one night at Foxy's house. He used to always bring a bunch of us riders up there. And then those hardcore guys, which was about most of us, damn it. We'd stay out and drink all night with them. But actually Terry was up drinking with us too. And he was talking about this pipe thing and why you guys want to make these pipes. And I'm like, I don't know. My brother's got this crazy idea. And then look, every sport bike ended up with the same pipe on it, right? But the thing is this. He goes, Ben, I want to ask you a question. You were talking about your eyes in the past. And I said, yeah. I had this dairy thing. I never realized it. And I about quit racing bikes because sometimes, things felt like they're coming at me at 300. And I need to come at me at 200 and 100 if I'm on a really good day, right? So he goes, yeah, me too. And he goes, damn, I'll tell you the problem. I just went and had LASIK done because, I realized, I got this dairy allergy and I started working out again because I'm not getting any younger. And, I got this guy, I don't know if it was like his coach or somebody, trainer, started feeding him these amino acids. I don't know if they're branched chain or essential or whatever, but they're a derivative from cow. So, of course, his eyes are jacked up again. He's, I guess I'm just getting old and go get LASIK done. And as it turns out, after the LASIK, he sees on the little thing, made dairy product. How about that for a kick in the ass?
Wow. That's crazy.
Right, so I had kind of this rare thing with a dairy to make my eyes blurry. It was actually kind of hard to even read. I want to order a Starbucks. What does that say? And I'm supposed to go ride a motorcycle at 200 mile an hour. And so it turns out Terry had the same thing. Now bring it way back. Let me tell you guys something. Back when I was a little grommet and I lived on this ranch with no telephones, TV, there was no such thing as Wi-Fi back then. We rarely had running water and power. But on my wall, literally above my bed, I had this big Suzuki poster and it just said, "Works like single moving part. To Ben, Cherry Vance." Now, can you imagine I'm growing up as a kid with that poster, staring at it every day? And then, years go by and here he is. We're drinking at Jeff Fox's house because he's the team owner. It's just the coolest thing. I don't know. I mean, the world's weird. These guys are texting, they're calling. McGill's texting me. And dude, these are guys how often do you talk to each other? Be honest, like once a year? Like, come on.
Yeah.
And then, ooh, something's in the air, like that's what's weird with humans, dude. We're kind of connected. It's a bizarre thing. There's some things you can't explain. And that's what's kind of great about it. I think, man, I should have died like several times, but I'm still here. Oh, I guess I'm not done with, I got something else I have to do. And you just chalk it up like that. Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Ben was famous for being a good motorcycle racer. He's famous for being so laid back, as you can gather from this call. He's also kind of famous for missing flights. Ben, what's the worst I've just totally screwed up and missed something that I shouldn't have flight story?
Man, I mean, how many times? I mean, I can tell you, like, how many times? Because
how much money did you spend on fees for that?
Oh, it was brutal. I got to tell you guys a funny story because, like I said, doesn't even matter anymore, right? You can just tell it, and like, dude, the Ducati boys, they could laugh. Dominicali and Paulo, they'd get a kick out of this. But, so I go ahead and I hire Mark Elder, right? And Mark and I, we're going to fly around, and we're supposed to fly first class, and that's what we've been given, right? And then it's like a paid back thing. So they're like, Ben, you got to fly to these first races. So, and they've already estimated out. They go, that's about $60,000 to fly to these ones. And then, we'll cut you another check every quarter for these flights. Okay, that's fine, whatever. Because I don't know what they cost. I'm not used to flying first class. I'm like a farm kid with no phone. We drove to the races in America half the time. So Mark goes, Ben, they're crazy. Listen to this. My salary is going to be free. I've already, what's it called? Consolidator's ticket. He's like, dude, we're going to fly from here to South Africa. We're going to hang out there as long as we want. Then we're going to fly through Bangkok, because who doesn't want to see Bangkok, right? And then we got to get our asses into Perth, over to Melbourne, up to Japan, and back to England. And I said, yeah, that sounds like 60 grand. No. He's like, it's going to cost like $1,500 a piece. And I was like, what? And he goes, look, I've already pieced it all together. Here's what we're going to do. And so now, hilariously, because Mark and I, we didn't care about flying in the front of the aircraft, and half the time I'd give that to like my mechanics anyway. So we're flying in the back, we're hilarious. And after a day in Bangkok and sweating our balls off, like we're sitting in the back by the toilets next to this lady who's just like, I can't believe I got to sit by these guys, right? And I remember going, Mark, I'll sit next to her because you're by far the sweatier of the two of us, right? Dude, it's a long flight. Can you imagine? So there we are. Here's the problem. At the time, I got this manager, Fred Bramblett, right? Ducati's like, where the F is this guy? And she's like, well, I got his itinerary right here. Why don't I send it? They're like, why don't you send it? So we know where he's at because they can't find me. They go, Ben, when I got back, actually, they said, we're going to give you a phone. We're going to turn it on. You're never allowed to shut it off. How about that? And I was like, oh, that doesn't sound like very much fun. So what happens was that she sends it. They look at this consolidator's ticket and they about shit themselves, right? Because they're like, whoa, he has to fly first class everywhere. That's part of our agreement. And dude, whoa, did I take an ass chewing? But that's the first time I really got in trouble for flights. But, in general, I've had some expensive ones where I can't recharge them back, but like I'll be building a climbing wall with my brother. I'm like, I need to stay because we didn't finish the climbing wall. And I'll just show up to Monza the night before my test. And then, I go and I forget the ticket at home. It's all the way out of the ranch. It's 2 hours from LAX. And then you got the French going, you're going to buy a new ticket. I said, dude, I got a paper ticket. They're like, that's right. It's a paper ticket. If you want to fly, you got to buy a new one. And we have a deal going right now. It's $6,000 for the flight. You can pay it right now, or you can miss this flight again. I'm like, give me the flight. And then like, I never get the $6,000 back because I never fly home to like go find the ticket. And you got like 30 days to turn it in and all that. So that's happened to me so many times. I always thought, man, Ducati got me back eventually because I've easily spent that money back reimburse, on my own flights, like doubling up on flights.
Oh man. Ben, I have a question for you related to World Superbike. So I actually mentioned this to Garrett Gerloff this past year, and I don't know if you told me, if I read it or if I heard it, but it was this difference from when you were in AMA Superbike and moved up to World Superbike. You had said it was an eye-opening experience for you because every single practice session, every qualifying, every lap of every race, you had to be on it 100%. You could never take any time off in your head or to think about stuff. You just had to be on it all the time. Can you talk about that quote? And really, is that one of the things that kind of got you to that 6 races, 6 wins, and 5 in a row that 1 year with L&M Ducati? Can you tell us about that?
I think, okay, that's 100% true. The biggest eye opener, I would say, when I went over there, those guys would roll out. Like, the bell goes, bing, track's green. And there wasn't like, like us, like kind of sitting there, we're putting on our helmet, the mechanics firing up the bike. And, we missed the first 3 minutes and like, who cares, right? And then you go out there and you roll around. Track looks safe. I feel comfortable. I think I'm going to go out and like send it this lap. You know what I mean? That was our attitude in America. Dude, I couldn't believe it. We get over there. The track's green, you're on the track, or they're literally kicking your ass out of the garage, which they call a box. And those guys are wide open. The minute they roll out there, they're just banging through the gears like they're hitting a drag strip. And I'm like, all right, what's wrong with these guys? They're a little too much coffee for these Italians. It wasn't that. It's just that they wanted to make use of every minute on the track. And at first I'm like, man, these guys are kind of crazy because, you'd see some horrendous crashes on like cold track, this, that, and the other, but they were up to speed. And then I'd spend the whole session just trying to like even come close to like the 10th place guy, right? And then the next session would show up and I was a little closer, okay, I made top 10. That's pretty good. I didn't have the sense of hurry like they did. They knew every minute counts. Qualifying is this afternoon. We want to make sure we don't do this in qualifying. And it was an eye opener. And that's what I wish, there's some things you wish you could take back or have a little more respect for what they did for you. Because when you're a kid, you're just thinking, I'll get it eventually. But the guy in the USA that was very good at it was actually Matt Mladen. That guy, he would roll out there, and on his 3rd lap, that was he set the fastest lap of the weekend, and none of us could touch it. But that's true too. And that was just because he had that mentality naturally. It just kind of built in, like, I'm here to work. Let's go. That way, when I quit, I'm done. I don't want to race it. So that was fantastic to see. The work ethic was just stronger there, and I think the racing meant more to him, and it was cool. So I try to tell everybody, when you go on the track, yeah, you can roll the jumps or whatever you're going to do, or if you go out, have a 1 lap look, and then start put on your business hat. It's time. It's go time.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't ever think that racing a motorcycle was the most important thing in your life. Am I right?
Yeah, you're 100% correct. It's funny you say that because I had another business friend that said the same thing. I'd quit and I was professional dad life. And he shows up. I think he stayed at my house that night, but he goes, Ben, I'm going to tell you something. Motorcycle racing never did it for you. And I go, what do you mean? And he's like, this is shortly after I retired. And he's like, you can just tell. He goes, but you're going to find something like business that really stimulates you. And he goes, and he goes, and you'll find it. And he goes, and I thought, oh, that's a weird comment. And so I think, unfortunately, that people could see it, but like, I'll tell you, Ducati could see it for certain. They realized this guy's out here every night, the discotheque, and he shows up and has fun racing his friends, but he doesn't want to go test or anything like that. And that's true. I actually loved racing my friends. Everybody out there was like this little circus, and I didn't hate any of them. It's weird that these guys some of the racers would, I don't like that guy, I don't like that guy. Hey, he might ride dirty, but that's a pretty fun guy to go drinking with. Like there's certain people that you gotta see what their quality is. They're not the coolest guy on the track. They're super cool off the track. And so I never had any enemies. And I remember Biaggi saying that. He goes, Ben, you're the only rider in the world that just gets along with anybody. Do you hate anybody? I said, not a one. And people be like, but how do you not? What about Matt Mladen? He tried to run you off the track and steal a title from you, and then stole another one from your brother. And I was like, Matt's cool. Like, I'm fine. The weirdest thing that happened with Matt, and I'll tell you, this one gave me tons of respect for that guy. I'm on a Yamaha. I think it's I don't know if it's 2009 or 10. We're racing at Sears Point, which is now called Infineon, and it's 110 degrees out. There's a heat wave. And I've already put it in my brain, like, I'm going to beat Matt on this track because he always wins here. Okay. And so I put in my head, we got there, I'm chasing him around, and I make this daredevil pass going into turn 1, which you shouldn't do because I run us both off the track there. And, we make the pass, and then we're leading, and then I crash. I pick the bike back up. They let me go out. It deflated Matt's balloon so hard, he basically quit racing. Boom, that's it. He pulls off almost. Like, he's soldiering around like 10th place, and I only finished 11th, right? And I'm like, God, what the hell happened to Matt? And everyone's like, you popped his balloon when you passed him into turn 1. And I said, okay, that guy's going to come back even harder the next day because I know this guy, right? And sure enough, day 2, we take off at the front, and I'm glued to that guy because I'm like, I need one mistake, and I'm so hot. I'm not seeing straight at the end. I'm seeing double, and I rode as hard as I've ever ridden in my entire life. The only time I've ever ridden with more sass is like winning an 883 race in the rain at Mid Ohio. Another track that Bice likes to move to the dangerous tracks. And so that race, I get off and I'm like, whoa. And I'm just kind of like, actually, I'm a little bit like delusional. And Nikki was there and she goes, what do you need? I said, I need some salt water and a date. And I look at Matt and he looks pretty good. But you can tell when somebody's like eyes are sunk in and you're just kind of weathered. And I talked to Josh Hayes and he's like, Ben, I actually overheated. I had to slow down. I said, dude, I overheated. I'm just too stupid to slow down. And then Matt goes, and then, the night before, Matt and I were actually talking because Matt sends me a text. He's like, what are you up to? Because we both like failed, right? We're like 10th place finishers that day. And I go, just watching this rabbit fence thing about these 2 girls that walked Australia. It's amazing. He's like, oh, you like that, do you? And I'm like, dude, I love it. Like, which is kind of funny, a guy that we're not supposed to like, and we're texting each other the night before this epic race, right? And then the race happens. Matt wins, but he didn't win by much. He wins by a bike length. And he goes, Ben, I'm going to tell you something. That's the toughest race I ever won. And I want to thank you. I've never ridden that hard in my life. And I appreciate that. And I was like, dude, that's respectable. I said, neither have I. And I lost. But like, so, it's like everybody's got their thing. Gobert and I, everyone's like, oh, you must hate Gobert. But by the time we made it to Hockenheim, I was fired. Now he felt bad. Ben's lost his factory ride. We're both on these shitty B-bikes. It's like he came to bury the hatchet, apologize for not showing up, losing me a title, and let's go drinking. Dude, we got along just fine after that. And so everybody's got their thing. It's kind of hard to find somebody you don't like in this life.
Okay, I got a follow-up. A follow-up question to the question I asked you about you not completely making motorcycle racing your life. Do you, based on the amount of talent that you obviously have to race a motorcycle, do you have any regrets, or do you wish you'd done anything differently, or are you just pumped away with the way that it all turned out?
Well, no, and it's funny you asked that because somebody else asked the same thing, and I'll tell you the same thing I told them. I regret not putting more into it. I never trained. Training for me was like sex and drinking, and I was like, let's go next day, and I felt pretty fresh as long as I didn't eat breakfast. And, as long as I was high on life, things went well. If I was kind of down or felt pressured, things didn't go so well, And like, even when we got the Philip Morris contract for Ducati, Paulo comes up and he's like, Ben, I know you don't like this track. It's raining, the whole thing. But he's like, we really need you to be on that front row. And I went out there and I had so much pressure. Like, I put the thing on second row and I about crashed every corner. And I thought, this isn't fun anymore. And then I rode around and soldiered around, got my ass kicked during the race. Probably got 15th, 16th, 18th. I don't know what I got. And this is in 2000 at Brands Hatch. And he comes to me and I was expecting him to say, okay, you lost the contract. We gotta let you go. But it was like, he goes, I didn't want to tell you we had the contract. I just wanted you to see what you do, basically. And I was like, oh my God. But I would have performed way better if he would just kept his goddamn mouth shut and just gave me the contract. You know what I mean? But he's like, Ben, it's bad luck to give you the contract ahead of time. And I was like, okay, whatever. But it's kind of weird how life pans out. I think you guys have probably seen it. I've learned my lessons. I wish I would have put more into it, only because those people paid so much damn money for you to travel and play with, basically race around with your friends on this traveling circus. And I wish I would have done a little more training, got some more nights of sleep, and put a little more effort forward. My brother was always way better at that than I was. I just purely relied on like, wow, we're racing motorcycles. Like talent should carry you through, which is not true. You see the good riders, they're talented and they win. And if you look at like a true statement, it'd be like, you know, talent's not what wins. You know, what do they say? They say hard work beats talent, except when talent works hard, right?
Right.
And that's when you see the superstars come out, because like, well, I actually have some talent, and then they have some work ethic. Most guys with talent, no work ethic. This is just it's life.
Boy, it happens a lot. It's true with, so true with a lot of things. Hey, I want to ask you, we had gotten some input from some fans with questions, and some of them are really good. I'm going to jump around with these a little bit. This first one I want to ask you, I think I might know the answer to it, but I still am going to ask you. So East Coast Fives asks, back in your World Superbike days, you commented that you really jived with tracks that went left. Is this more of a joke or a real thing for you?
Now, that was actually a half joke, so everyone believed it. But the truth is, when I won that first one, and the track was going left, and we'd won on another left-handed track, but the second one, there people were like, hey, and I said, that track goes left, it's easy. And when we go ride in the desert with my brother, I was actually faster on the right-handed tracks. But the fact is, on the left-hand track, you can drag the rear brake easily and kind of slide them into the corner and make it look all flashy, you know. But I just made the comment. I didn't like the track regardless more than the right-handed track. It was just something that happened by accident.
Boy, I was going to say,
good.
I thought because of your background in flat track that, you're just more comfortable from flat track being loose on the rear end and going left, I guess. So that's not the case, huh?
No, that's not the case. I mean, if you look at someone like Larry Pegram, Jesus, that guy had like a effed up style on the right side, right? But like on the left, he was genius. So like we're just different. Like I didn't care. I just said it to say it because it was funny, and then everyone just took it and ran, you know.
So this guy John P. Shannon, actually he had a statement after this question, which I'm going to give it to you after I read the question, because the statement leads into something that I want to ask you again. So, all right, this question is, and I would ask this to you too, Ben. It says, will you and or your brother ever be involved with a MotoAmerica team, or are you okay moving away from the sport?
I mean, sadly, I've always been okay moving away from any sport, because everything's like a little blink in time. I feel like you've done it, and my worst enemy is like you guys said before, it's changing a bike or trying to do something different because you feel like you've done it and you've left. Dan Fahey always said this. That was my brother's mechanic, and now he's in charge of Kawasaki there at Supercross. But he's like, Ben, I feel like when you've done something, you're over it. You've already done it and you're out. He's like, you never take the time to try to hone it in. I said, that's just how it's always been. If Eric and I couldn't climb that 512 that day, we moved on. We tried a 513 the next day. We didn't work on the 512C. Who cares? Like we couldn't climb it that day, which is a very short attention span. And we're like the original millennials. Right? These guys got a 2 minute. So that's me. It is what it is. Like I would love when people ask for advice. Like if they ask, I'll give them all the time they want on the phone. And normally I try to like dictate a little bit of nutrition, a few things that they should do. And then I try to give them the Ben Bostrom spiel, which is do what I say, not what I do.
Right. So Ben, we part two of one of the questions that we got is somebody told a story about the guy John P. Shannon said many years ago, you gave my daughter your third place medal at Mid-Ohio. It's still on her bedpost. And I wanted to ask you about that because we know or have heard stories about the fact that you would give fans trophies. And I always thought it was like, well, you didn't want to keep the third or second place trophy because you didn't win. But what's your philosophy on that? Is that true?
No, that's 100% true. Like, look, if I would have kept the trophy, it had been long gone, smashed in some dumpster somewhere. Like, but if you give it to a fan, you'd always like, if it's just sitting there, somebody's like, can I have the trophy? You can have it. It's yours, right? Because they're keeping it. That's amazing. They hung on to it. That's what I can't understand with any of these like riders. You go to some of their houses and there's like this, like kind of like this I love me trophy room. I'm like, dude, who dusts those? Like those are dust collectors. You know what I mean? They're stealing space in your house. Like, what are you doing?
You don't have a trophy. You don't have a trophy room in your house.
Not a one. No. Not
and
a one.
What about
people walk in my house, Bice, and they're like, I thought you used to be like an athlete, or like you did something. There's not but because they're looking around for like a photo, a trophy. It's kind of funny. And I'm like, yeah, I did that. See, I don't relive it. I did it. Done.
What about bikes? Do you have, I mean, you have some bikes, right?
No, that's what which is hilarious too. I mean, at the ranch, like we do, and I'll go out there and play with my brother a little bit, stuff like that, because he's got a really cool, like a horsepower school by EB, and that's the only time I haven't ridden for 5 years, and one day I showed up to his track and rode, and I was like, man, that was a lot of fun, And then now, like once a year, I show up and do something. If we get some some characters out there, it's great. The thing with the trophy, I don't like you've done it, when Johnny Cash is like. There's like this time in his life and they're like, you've been to this town? He's like, yeah, I believe I spent a week there one night. But it's been done. You know what I mean? Like the problem is if you always look back and remember that, you don't move forward, and the thing I could say that's the saddest, because I've had, we've had some friends, commit suicide and stuff, but you kind of see them rehashing old stuff before they do it because it's not good for you. It's right. You've done it. You were awesome. You're still awesome. Shit. But start something new, because the difference is humans need progression. I don't care, male, female, kid, child, baby, but if you don't have something you're kind of looking forward to and you're doing, creating, and a little goal for tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, life goes downhill real fast. So you gotta have progression in life. Like that's what keeps you kind of young and stimulated. Otherwise we crack.
That's good advice for the sheltering in place time that we're all doing. I mean, it's kind of like you got to have that light at the end of the tunnel or looking forward. And I know I certainly feel that way. I have a story. This is more something that a fan said. It's not a question for you, but it kind of speaks to this idea of, not keeping your trophies and just sort of, you got the memory and moving on. And I know your experiences in your life are what you cherish and value the most. So this guy, GRM288, says, not a question, but the Bostrom brothers are the nicest people. I had a hot dog with Ben when he raced for Ducati. He came to our little Ducati shop in Richmond, Virginia. My dad, brother, and I were sitting down having a dog, and he came and sat with us and talked like he and Dad were old friends. I was trying to figure out where my dad would know a guy with red and pink dyed hair from, and he figured out. He said if you could let him know he appreciated it. Do you remember that dealer visit to the Ducati place? You probably don't remember the hot dog moment, but maybe
I don't remember the hot dog because I wasn't too much of a meat eater, and I don't really touch that stuff. But every now and then, if it's 3 a.m. and I gotta have a hamburger, like I'm in. Let's go. We gotta get up at 5:30 for this fundo, right? Let's go hit it. So but that I do remember the dealer visit. I don't remember the people so much. I remember the situations and. A lot's happened. Let's say that, right? Like if you go and you're living and you feel like you've lived enough is when you've lived 10 lives, right? And I feel like I'm catching there. I'm about on number 8. So we're doing good. But if we go back to that moment, that makes me so happy. I got this other strange message years ago from this family and they said the same thing. And I never forget it because they end up getting me in a little bit of trouble. But we were testing down in South Africa. And things weren't going quite right. And I was a little bit mad at the tire manufacturer because I was like, Dunlop needs a better tire, right? And so we're going into the season. They brought me all these tires and not one of them was any good. And I was kind of mad. And I remember my guys would write on the triple clamp and I stole one of their markers and I wrote on my triple clamp, which was basically F those guys, right? And I did to be funny because I'm like, okay, let's go out and ride my bike. So I was out there and I'm running around, having fun, just sliding the thing around because there wasn't any grip. And these spectators show up and they're watching this private test. And he goes, man, Ben, well, if you just want a home cooked meal, we'll feed you tonight. Here's my address. Dude, I showed up at that guy's house. Now I had to drive. Can you imagine driving through the cuts of South Africa? It was a little scary because everybody had these big armed fences and looked like guards walking in front of their house. And I got there and the guy couldn't believe it. He's like, I can't believe it. You're here. And I said, well, I don't got anything else to do. How about that home cooked meal? You know what I mean? And I heard from the guy years later, it still blew him away that somebody would go do that. And I thought that's just human touch, Now the funny part was I go back the next day and I was faster and we were good. We're fast. I think it's just because you have a little bit of human touch sometimes. But when I show back up at the race, they took a photo of that triple clamp and they hung it over the fence. And this thing was it's this giant 8 by 20 billboard, and I was like, oh my God. And then and Ducati saw it, and they're like, that's your riding. That's your triple clamp. I'm like, yeah, I did that. And, and it's hanging up there. These drunk South Africans cheering you on. But that's me.
That's part of why the love is so deep for you around the world. Hey, we're almost out of time, and I know Paul's trying to wrap this up here, but I wanted to just try to do a few quick rapid fire ones just to get a few more fan questions in. So maybe we can do them where you can just kind of give kind of quick answers.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just like almost like what comes to mind first, but who is your favorite rider to race against on the track?
that is tough because it was the ones that probably wanted to kill you. I love racing Haga and Bayless. The other guys a lot of them were, no one, I'll say this, was probably as nice as me on the track. And I never really got to race my brother, but those guys, like they'd put the fight in the dog, and I really enjoyed it.
Okay. So we had Ben Spies on recently, and we asked this question to him, and well, we didn't really ask him. It sort of came out. He pretty much said, because of the way his personality is, he probably would have enjoyed and stayed in AMA Superbike his entire career and never moved up. Did you, comparing the two, World Superbike versus AMA Superbike, which one did you like better if you could make a choice or had to?
Oh, well, it's World Superbike. Those are truly some of my greatest years, just because of the shenanigans that went on around the race. In the AMA, it was too clean cut. You fly home, you're back at home on Sunday night. You know what I mean? You fly out last minute and you're back home. You're just home. You're like, dude, I could always be home. I got 80 years to be home. In World Superbike, you're flying around these different countries, learning things you'd never seen, trying to speak that. What kind of food is that? And the whole thing was an experience. The racing was incredible because there was 20 guys that were going to beat you. And you come over to the AMA and there was 5 guys that were going to beat you, So like it's just a little bigger scale, but the learning process, it kept you on that progressive thing we were talking about earlier. You got to keep the mind open. Young.
Okay, so here's one. This is a little tricky. I don't know if this will be rapid fire, but I'll make this the last question that I ask you. Chris Corvin asks, what was your best ride and what track with that bike? So I guess he's saying, what was the favorite bike you rode and on what track was your favorite track to ride it on, I guess, is the question.
Oh man, that is a tough one. Everybody's going to expect it to be the Ducati because they're like that thing, but that bike you had to ride, it rode best if you kept the wheels in line. And I usually like to have them hanging out, so I'd purposely slide the thing around, but like the bike actually went fastest so you keep the wheels in line. So I was never any good at it. Probably not the best rider on it. But when I came home, when Honda built the new 1000 in 2004, that thing was incredible, the HRC bike. That was probably the most fun bike I had ridden until I got on Chuck Graves' little R6. I was like, man, this thing's pretty dynamite. I love that little bike. They did what a bike should do, It's just one of those things. You have all those great expensive bikes, even that Honda, that thing was super expensive in 2004, but that little 600, it's, I don't know what those things cost, if it's 15 grand or something, but that thing was incredible. Super fun to ride. It made you smile.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, that time when you were at Daytona, that bike and nighttime and freezing cold and all that, but do you look back at that race fairly fondly, that Daytona that night?
I kind of do, because I always look forward to the last lap because I'm like, oh man, 200 miles, like who can put up with this, And you race around and, you're just racing the same guys. And then when there is 5 laps to go, okay, we've been waiting 195 miles for this. I mean, that's basically what it came down to. And so you go out there and you put in 2 big laps, and that was fun. We had that opportunity, the same opportunity in 2003 when I went over there, and we got McGill and Curtis and we're racing around, and I see the white flag. I'm like, God, we've been waiting 198 miles for this, right? Here we go. And I would try to have these huge drives. I'm going to save my tire. And I thought we had this thing won. There's a little bit of, we hit a little lapper there. And I made a mistake in the chicane by going down to first. And I thought, man, I lost because of that. But that's racing. It's like you gotta put your time in.
Yeah. That's cool.
All right, guys, I'm putting an end to this.
Hey, wait, hold on a second. Listen to me. I got to tell you guys something real quick, because you got to wonder what's Ben's next chapter, right?
There you
Yeah,
go.
what is it? Yes.
Yeah. Look, oh, now you give a shit. Now you care. Okay. So here's my thought. I've been having too much fun, like creating like different supplements and stuff for 20 years. I got to put it out there for you. And then I thought, that's probably not enough. And I got this phone call from NBC to go announce MotoGP. All right. And I said, I don't know. And then this talent scout called, and she was so brilliant, because I was like, man, it kind of sounds fun. But she put it right into me. She goes, Ben, here's the problem with ex-athletes. They don't do anything that scares them anymore. So my advice to anybody that's listening to this show, make sure you do something that scares you nearly daily or weekly or monthly, whatever it is, to make sure you still have a pulse. Because she goes, look, you've never been on live TV having to call shots. You're used to being on the other side of the mic. This is going to scare you, and you're going to have to learn something new again at 45 years old. And I was like, wow, she's good. I'm pretty sold right there, And then she goes, you might want to do something later. You're still at 45. You got to double this life again to hit 90. And she goes, you might want to have a brand or do something else. And this is a good way to make yourself relevant. And I thought, wow, she's good. I would hire her. Right. And so I'm like, I'm on. Call him up. Tell him it's a deal. Like, let's go. And then of course this virus happens and the whole thing gets canceled. But man, I was inspired. And that's one thing I want everybody to understand. Once you become complacent and you kind of know how to do everything, you got to change. You got to change. I don't care if it's a sport, job, this, that, just move houses, move across the street or something. Like it's kind of interesting. We become that. What did Evel Knievel say? Do you remember he always had those stupid quotes? He'd say, about living in the gray zone, not being there, or if he had, if he made 33 million, he spent 35. And if God wanted me to take that with me when I died, he put handles on that money. Like those kind of things, they really keep your mind going, and it's important. So that's Ben's next chapter. Not that you guys cared to know, I had to bring it up.
Well, here all the time I thought your next chapter was riding a Harley Davidson road glide through the corkscrew at Laguna Seca. But you got more going for you than just that ride, which we're going to be looking forward to seeing you do, by the way.
Yeah, we can't wait for that.
That's for fun. That is so I can go out there and play with the boys again. Like I told you, every time I go down to my brother's horsepower camp there on the little Kawasaki 140s, man, it's a hoot, and you feel really alive. It's back in the day. Do you remember had that thing that would say when you're riding, you're living the rest of the time, you're just waiting? I kind of stole it from Steve McQueen. Yeah. He stole it from somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And like I put things like on my helmet to kind of motivate me, and he's like, that's truly it. When you're doing something that you feel like you're living, each minute is actually an hour, right? That's when you're really alive, because the rest of the time, sometimes those minutes, man, they drag on. So that's, my brother actually said it. On Sunday, he'd be so alive. On Monday, he'd be empty. And I always thought, Eric, you've nailed it. That's because we're hanging out with our friends. You're with the boys. You're alive. You got your team around you. You're riding the greatest motorcycle on earth. And then Monday shows up and you're like just sitting at home. I mean, it's incredible. Like well, what am I doing? And unfortunately, I call that post-depression syndrome from like athletes. And you see a lot of these guys, they're like, and you see this happen. They, drinking, drugs, or suicide, because they're like, man, it's just never going to be that good again. So you got to be creative and make it that good again. That's the only way.
All right.
That's a great philosophy.
All right, Bostrom, we love you. And we thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
it was really a lot of fun, and we'll have to do it again. And whatever your next chapter is, I know it'll be a good one. But we're excited as hell to see you at Laguna Seca. And
it's gonna be great.
We get moved past all the virus things, and we go motorcycle racing again, because I know that's what we like the most. So
yeah, I won't have that 6-foot rule. I'm gonna walk up and give you a hug. So
all right, I look forward to that.
All right, good.
That'll be good. Yeah.
All right, boys. Thank you.
Right. Gentlemen, thank you.